welcome to Cooking with Miss Erin. We're going to be making flatbread for you to enjoy with your family for the Thursday communion. These are the ingredients that you'll need for this recipe: flour, salt, butter or margarine, milk, and oil. In your package, you also have some alternatives if you need to be dairy-free or gluten-free for this recipe. We're going to start by melting the first two ingredients together. You can do this in the microwave if you prefer, but I'm going to use the stovetop pot. We need 3 tablespoons of the butter or margarine. And we're going to mix that with 3/4 of a cup of milk. Now we need an adult to take this over to the stove and warm it up until the butter or margarine is just melted. Turn your stove on to low to medium heat, just to gently melt the butter into the milk while stirring. This will take a couple minutes. Looks like it's all melted in and completely incorporated, so we're going to remove it from the heat and set it aside to cool down a little bit. Okay, now you need a pretty big bowl to mix this in. We're going to start with the flour. We need 2 cups of flour. You can use gluten-free flour if that works better for your family. But I'm going to use all-purpose flour today. So there's our 2 cups of flour, and we need just a ½ teaspoon of salt. And let's mix that in. Now we're going to add our wet ingredients into our dry ingredients. Make sure they're cool enough for little hands if the kids will be mixing. So pour that in there. And we're going to mix it together. It's going to make a pretty soft dough. If you feel like it's too sticky, you can add more flour. It's really coming together here. And if you want, you can finish the mixing with your hands, like Play-Doh. You need to get all the little bits of flour from the bottom of the bowl, and it will feel almost exactly like Play-Doh. But this is Play-Doh we can eat. Once you have it pretty mixed up, we're going to move it onto the counter. So dust your surface with a little bit of flour to prevent it from sticking. Now luckily this bread does not need much kneading because it's a flatbread. So we're going to transfer our dough onto here and knead it a few times. Maybe the kids in your family can take turns having a few pushes at the dough. Just going to knead it around like this. Really only about a minute of kneading is needed, and then we're going to let it sit for ½ an hour. So if you have cellophane, you can wrap it in the cellophane and come back to it in ½ an hour. It just needs to rest. So just take a small square of cellophane and just wrap it up so it doesn't dry out while it's resting. Like that. And I'm going to take the opportunity while that's resting to clean up my work surface a little bit. While we're waiting, we're going to preheat our pan. It's best if the first flatbread goes in while it's already warm. You only need ½ teaspoon of oil. Non-stick pan. If you use too much oil, the bread's going to be a little soggy and oily. So depending on your stove, we're going to put it on about a medium-high heat and wait a few minutes for this to heat up. Okay, it's time to unwrap our dough. And we're going to separate it into 4 sections. This works perfectly if you have 4 children to each roll out one ball. So separate it into approximately 4 even balls. 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to roll them out, so I need my rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, you can use any sort of cylindrical cup. It'll do the same job. Put a bit of flour on top and roll it out until it's about 1/8 of an inch thick, or 3 centimeters thick if you prefer metric. Just keep flipping it over and rolling until you get an approximate circle shape of the desired thickness. Should look a little bit like this. Now that we've rolled out all 4 dough balls and our pan is preheated, it's time to start cooking. Have an addle, place the first flatbread into the pan, and it needs about 1.5 minutes on each side. You'll hear it start to cook. Older kids can help with the flipping. It's a pretty easy movement. And you'll notice that little bubbles start to come up. If you want, you can push them back down and be like a flatter bread, or they can puff up more like naan bread. We're going to keep flipping till it looks toasty on both sides. All right, if your flatbread has a few nice brown spots like that, it means it's done. We'll take it out and you can set it aside on a plate. They stack nicely, all 4 onto a plate. If you have to wait a few minutes before you're going to eat them, you can cover them with a tea towel to keep them from sticking together. And now for the last step, we need to clean up our workspace.